As a writer who focuses on creating thought leadership for the financial services industry, I often get asked, what's it like to work with a ghostwriter? What is the process for working with a ghostwriter? And there's lots of different ways it can work, but it basically comes down to three main scenarios. The first is where you're starting from scratch. In this scenario, I'll go in and the client will have the main idea of what they want to cover and they'll have a point of view, but they haven't created anything like an outline. Maybe they've rounded up the research materials, but really all they have is this idea of here's what we want to create. So that's where you go in and you help them develop that outline, help the direction, narrow the scope, and then do the interviews and create the piece from scratch. The second scenario is when you're putting meat on the bones. And in this case, the client may have an outline that the portfolio managers and the analysts have worked together to put together, and they have the facts that they want to use to support those ideas, and they have the research, but they need help fleshing out those ideas and bringing it all together. And so that, again, that's an area where a ghostwriter can really add a lot of value. And the third scenario is where they've written the first draft and they just need help editing or polishing it. And a lot of people think that this might not be all that valuable, but I can tell you that what we try to do is we try to take pieces that are maybe an 80 and bring them to a 95 or 100 in terms of how high the quality is. And in this case, we're not just proofreading and copy editing, that's certainly part of it, but really what we're doing is we're looking to polish the language and make the transition smoother. And more than that, we're taking an objective eye at the piece and saying, here's some holes in the logic, or here's areas where a chart or a case study or some additional information can help address some unanswered questions that you as the author might think are obvious, but to the outsider and to the audience, you need to really address those gaps. So again, there's three main ways that a ghostwriter can work and add value. Starting from scratch, putting meat on the bones, or polishing the rough edges. So remember, there's no one way that a ghostwriter adds value. It all depends on where you're at in your process and where you need the most help.